Good morning, everyone. So here we are with the another topic, that is ecological succession. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Richa Gupta and I've done MSc Biotech, BSc Biotech and B.Ed. And yes, I was gold medalist in the BSc Biotechnology. So today we are going to start with the ecological succession. So see, basically ecological succession is the process by which one species is going to replace another species by a series of process, and then the area is going to totally change. First, we have a bare area, and now this bare area is going to convert into a habitat, or we can see a forest. So basically, ecological succession is a process by which the mix of species and habitat in an area changes over time. You can just relate with that point that the bare area is going to convert into the forest, and that bare area, it may be the rock, the basically rock mountain is going to convert into forest, or any places after the volcanic eruption, the cool down lava is going to change into the forest. So this whole process is known as the ecological succession. Now, before going to ecological succession, we are going to study some plant kingdom member, because they are going to use in the ecological succession. So you should know what they are. So you can see first one is the bryophytes. So basically bryophytes, these are the moss. These are the little moss-like plants. And when we are talking about the succession, the first or the pioneer species on the rock is basically algae. You can see the algae over here. These algae, they are basically aquatic organisms, and they are present in the water. They are very minute. They are unicell, or they may be the multicell organism. And these bryophytes, these are the multicell organism, but yes, they don't have any root, stem, leaf, flower, or seed. They have root-like structure, they have stem-like structure, but the true root, stem, leaf are absent. And obviously, they don't have any vascular system. In algae, embryo stage is not present, but in bryophyte, embryo stage is present. So we can say bryophytes are the first embryophytes. And then here comes the pteridophytes, commonly we known as the fern. These ferns, they are having root, stem, leaf, and they are having vascular tissue. So these are small plants, but they don't have the seed. We can see the seed in gymnosperm, and after gymnosperm, in angiosperm, we can see the flower. So basically, algae, they don't have any embryo. They are unicell, multicell organism. Bryophytes, they are multicell. They are the first embryophytes. Pteridophyte, they have now vascular tissue. So they are the first tracheophytes. And then gymnosperm, they have the first seed in the plant kingdom. So they are the first spermatophyte. And then angiosperm, they have the flowers. They are the only kingdom which are having the flowering plants. So these are the plants we are going to study, or we are going to see in the ecological succession. First one, you can see the lichens also. Lichens are the symbiotic association of algae and fungi. So these are the composite organism. Algae is photoautotrophic. They can make their own food, but fungi is heterotrophic. They don't make their own food. They are heterotrophic. And lichens, when we are talking about lichens, which means it is a composite organism. It is the symbiotic association of algae and fungi. So all these organisms we are going to study in these ecological succession. See, before going to succession, we are going to discuss about the pioneer and climax community. So in a succession, the first species is known as the pioneer community or the pioneer species. So just imagine there is a rock, and in the rock there is going to be some pioneer community is going to habitate. So basically this pioneer community is going to survive on the rock. They are going to colonize on the rock. So this pioneer means the first. So the first species is the pioneer community. And after the succession, the end game of the succession is the climax community. So basically climax community is the forest and pioneer community is the first community. So just imagine there is a rock, there is nothing else here. Like there is no soil, no nutrients, nothing there in the rock. So it is very much difficult process for the pioneer community to establish themselves. So it is the harsh environment and the energy consumption is inefficient, nutrient loss is there, and there is very low species diversity. And the fluctuations are very common because pioneer species, they will take much more time to colonize there on the rock, and it will be very difficult for them to colonize also. But for the climax community, slowly when the pioneer community will die, then the soil will form, the nutrients will form, and there will be much land, much soil, much nutrient, and much favorable condition will be there. So for the climax community, it will be much easier to colonize themselves. So they will be the favorable environment, the biomass will be stable, nutrient cycling you can see, there will be high species diversity, and they are the stable community. So the fluctuations are very uncommon there. So these are the pioneer and the climax communities characteristics. Now, succession. First one is the primary succession. So primary succession means the area where no previous plants or no previous living being were there. So primary succession means the first kind of succession, the very first succession, like the bare rock. So bare rock, we don't see any plant species. So it is the primary succession. And xerosear means the dry condition. So xerosear succession means the rock condition is now going to convert into the forest condition. So slowly, this rock is going to break and they are going to make the soil, and then the nutrient will release into the soil, and you can see in hundreds of years, there will be a heap of soil and there are so many nutrients are there. And then the bare rock, you can see whole forest after few years. I mean hundreds of years. It will take hundreds of years. So in a bare rock, the pioneer community will be the lichens or the bryophyta. So these lichens and bryophyta, these are the pioneer community. They will release some acid, they will break the rock, they will make some soil, they release nutrients into the rock, and then they make some soil, and they will make the condition easier for the next species. So after the lichens and the bryophytes, it will be pteridophytes, the perennial grasses. First, they will be annual grasses, and then the perennial grasses, and then the shrubs will be there, and then the whole forest will be formed. So this is the climax community. Forest will be the climax community, and the rock, it is having the lichens, it is a bare rock, so it is the pioneer community. And I told you, primary succession means the succession where no previous life form was there, and now a new life form is going to colonize them. So xerosear means a dry condition, and this dry condition is going to convert into the mesic or the moderate condition. So this is known as the primary succession. So I told you like xerosear, the dry condition, like the sand desert, sand dunes, salt desert, this, etc. So these xerosear means there is a limited or no water availability. Very less water will be there, the dry condition. So desert is going to convert into the forest. So this kind of succession is known as the xerosear succession. So basically, primary succession is the area where the cool volcanic lava or the glacier or the rock, they will going to convert into the forest. So this rock is going to convert into the forest. So this kind of succession is known as the primary succession, in which the pioneer community will be the lichens and the bryophytes, and ultimately the end game of the species will be the forest. So in this class, here is the primary succession. And in the primary succession, it is of basically two types. First one we talk about the xerosphere, and the second one is the hydrosphere. Zero means dry condition. Hydro means water, hydric condition. So in xerosphere, sand or rock is converting into the forest. And in hydrosphere, these aquatic bodies like the pond is going to convert into the forest. This is the hydrosphere. So we can have these pond, and the first species in pond ecosystem will be the phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons, they are like very minute plant bodies. They are unicelled species, and they will colonize, they will make the water dense, they will make the soil, and because they are making the water dense, so the submerged plant species will arise, they will colonize, and when they die, they will make the water more dense, and the free floating plants will grow now. So first is phytoplanktons, then the submerged plant species, then the free floating plant species, and when they die, they will make the water much denser. And then here we have the reed swamp stage, and then marsh meadow stage, then scrub, and then the forest stage. So basically, hydric stage is going to convert into the mesic stage. So we have phytoplanktons. They are the minute small plants bodies, then the submerged plant bodies, then the free floating plant bodies, and then the reed swamp, marsh meadows, scrub, and forest. So these reed swamp, water is still there, and in marsh meadow, amphibian plants are there, which means they require both water and soil for their growth. And then the scrub stage, small shrubs will be there, and then they will die and they will make more soil, and they make more nutrient, and then they make the forest or the end game species. So basically, in succession, the dry condition is going to convert into mesic condition. It is a xerosphere. And when hydric condition is going to convert into mesic, then it is known as the hydrosphere succession. Now, here comes the secondary succession. So, primary succession is like there were no previous colonization of the plants. But what happened when the flood arises, or any kind of natural calamities, or any kind of soil destruction is there? So if there is anything like this, so the soil and the whole area is now, the whole community, plant species will vanish. Now the soil is there, nutrient is there, but the plants have vanished. So the land is barren. So now in this area, the secondary succession is going to take place. So if the primary will die for any reason, then the new type of the plant will succeed and colonize themselves, and now they create the forest. So this kind of succession is known as the secondary succession. Like the forest fire or the flood or anything, after death, the succession is known as the secondary succession. It's just like the primary succession, the process is same, but here the difference is like in a primary, the whole colonization is just new, but in case of secondary, there is a previous colonization, and after they vanish, then the secondary succession arises. So after the forest fire, the area is now barren, and now the pioneer species will colonize, and then the intermediate species, and then the climate community will colonize. So ultimately, the climax community in every type of succession is the forest. So the grasses, and then the shrubs, and then the forest. So this is the succession. And yes, it will take hundreds of years. So the major difference between primary and secondary is primary, no previous colonization of the plant, but the secondary, yes. After the primary will vanish, then the secondary will start. So basically, the climax community in every type of succession is the end point of succession. And because forest itself is a stable community, so no or very less net biomass increase, it is a stable community. So this is the climax community, the forest. So these are some of the examples of the ecological succession. In Hawaii and Iceland, the primary succession you can see occurs on lava flows, and then in Canada, the sand dunes are there, and then Andes, the glaciers are there. So there the forest is now present. So this kind of succession, these are some of the examples of the primary succession or the ecological succession. So like I told you, in primary, no soil exists, but in secondary, after the primary will vanish, then the secondary arises. So obviously soil is there. And in primary, the pioneer community, it will take much more time. But in secondary, the pioneer community take very less time because soil is already present. And the process is just the same. Difference is here, soil was not there, no previous plant species was there, the rock or the water is there. But in secondary, after the forest fire or after the flood, the new succession will arise. The soil is present. So these are the differences between the primary and the secondary succession. Now here comes some of the question, like which of the following is true in climax community? Like I told you, climax community is a stable community. It is the end game of the succession. So first option is the community will constantly evolve and change. No, they will not change. They are stable. So first is not correct. Second, if one species die, a new species will fulfill. No, climax itself is stable. Climax is the end point. So there is no point of dying one species and fulfilling the other. Then third, they are the stable and maintaining the population. Yes, correct. So answer will be the third one. Yes. Next is which process occurs after a forest fire? So I told you after forest fire, it will be the secondary succession. Here you can see a option which is a eutrophication. So basically eutrophication is the algal bloom you can say, or when the water hyacinth, it is a plant when they grow in the aquatic plant bodies or the stagnant water bodies like the pond or the lake, then they basically depletes the oxygen level and this results in the death of the water organism like the fishes and the other plants. So this whole process is known as the eutrophication. Simply you can read it with the algal bloom. Photosynthesis, you know. So answer is fourth, secondary succession. Next, true or false? The climax stage of ecological succession is where the land is barren. And if you see, the land is barren because of the natural disaster. Land is barren, which means they will be the pioneer community, not the climax. So the climax stage is where the succession is going to end. There is the end game of the succession. Land is not barren. Land is just covered with the plants. So the statement is itself false. Now, what is the goal of the pioneer species in primary succession? So the goal is to make the soil. So answer will be the second, to rebuild the soil. And then what is ecological succession? Basically, the changes of an ecosystem over time. So this is the ecological succession where a barren area or the dry condition or the aquatic condition is going to convert into the mesic or the moderate condition. That is the ecological succession. Then what triggers or begins secondary succession? So secondary succession arises after the forest fire or any kind of disturbance. So answer will be the first. Next starts with bare rock followed by lichen. Bare rock means primary succession first, correct? Next, succession that occurs in an area where soil is already present. If soil is present, it must be the secondary succession, correct? A stable ecological community that has reached equilibrium. If they will reach the equilibrium, it will be the climax community, correct? Second. So this is the end of the topic. I hope you enjoy the topic and please don't forget to subscribe me. Thank you so much.